L. Ron Howard wanted to start a cult.
L. Ron Hubbard.
That's 100% L. Ron Howard.
It's 100% L. Ron Hubbard.
It's 100% L. Ron Howard. 100%. What you gotta do is break him down. You gotta L. Ron Howard him.
That's not a thing. So much about Scientology except the guy's name. That's the easiest part of it. What was it? Would he invent Scientology like after he directed Backdraft in Apollo 13?
No, that was Ron Howard. I'm talking about L. Ron Howard.
Oh my God.
Guys, can we please stop?
Hey, there you are.
Hi.
Sorry about that, guys. That was mostly on my end. I apparently needed to update some software right before I started, and I did not check because I'm a tiny bit buzzed, Jenny. My twin brother surprised me with a lunch today with his girlfriend and their two wonderful twins. So I've been busy. I hopefully I made their day. I gave him my lightsaber, which they were super, super happy about. I had an extra one stashed here.
And he had more than one lightsaber.
Oh no. I didn't say that out loud, did I?
Wow. You just went from like nerd to super nerd.
Super nerd. Like people don't even realize what a nerd I am. No, I'm a giant nerd, guys, and I'm proud of it. Hey to everyone, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Yes, happy Father's Day.
Right, we wish Mike B a happy Father's Day today. I know he's spending time with his kids, which is awesome. And happy Father's Day to everyone out there, not only in the SPTV network, but those of you that are just fathers and that are good fathers. Usually this is a happy, sad day for me just because, you know, I lost my dad to Scientology. But nonetheless, I'm happy for all the dads that are out there, especially the people that I grew up with, Mike Brown. I would say I didn't grow up with Aaron, but he's a father too. So, Dallas Hill, the fathers I know. So, yeah, very proud of you guys. I know it's not an easy job and I'm really happy for you, but there we go. There we go. How have you been?
Not bad. Just, rolling along.
Rolling on.
Little up, little down. How about that?
Little bit. Is that why we're having a talk today? A little bit of why?
A little bit. Yeah, probably a little bit. Yeah. Have some like talk therapy.
Yeah, you're dealing with something that I dealt with a couple like 15 years back. The awkwardness of fully leaving Scientology, your parents' reaction, and their complete disassociation with personal feelings and acknowledgement of the trauma that you went through. It's a weird thing because your parents love you at the same time. It's weird for them to put Scientology ahead of you a little bit. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, guys, is a little bit of that factor, the parents' reaction towards their children and their mechanisms, which, by the way, 90% of the time are exactly the same. When you told me the story about your parents, Jenny, it's exactly what my parents were doing too when I left or when I told them I was leaving. It's not easy. It's a rough thing to go through.
Yeah, it was interesting to almost see like step by step was like the same as your experience. Even though like being raised in there, I should already know this and I should know better, but you know how it is. It's still like, as it's happening, it's a bit like, oh, wow. Like this is really happening,
Yeah, like really? Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And into whatever degree, I have some fault in that because I'm finally arriving at a place where I don't want to bend anymore. I don't want to pretend. I don't want to be muffled and be told to shut up in order to save the reputation of something that, I don't know. I guess my perspective is this, because I've looked at it from so many different angles and I've talked to a lot of people in all different ends. Like I was going to kind of list it out and I probably will, but like, I finally kind of just wound up where I'm like, if that organization can speak to millions of people and say how great it is, how wonderful, all these great things they can do, the incredible states of existence they can bring you to, all that kind of stuff, that's their opinion or that's what they want you to whatever. And as free as they are to say all that stuff, I should be free to say what my experience was,
Right.
As much as they have a right, I feel like I have a right. And so I guess I'm kind of in that frame of mind. And that's not one that jives super well with their policies and stuff.
No, it's a weird experience because as I understand it, your parents are telling you, hey, why don't you just get on with your life? Why do you have to talk about Scientology, complain about Scientology, complain about your existence? But the fact of the matter is you grew up in that. You're not just complaining. You're talking about your personal experiences, which were traumatic. If your experiences weren't traumatic as a child growing up in Scientology, you'd have no reason to talk about them, but they are. And for them to have the audacity to tell you not to speak about them is kind of shocking. And they even put it in such a way, at least my parents did, it's like, why are you even talking about it? What's the issue? Because it's your life. It's the part of your life. It's important to you. And part of you moving on is having the ability to talk about it. Now, 10 years ago, maybe not such an easy avenue to take. But now that we have YouTube, now that Aaron had started this whole, YouTube phenomenon inside the ex-Scientology culture, it becomes very easy to have that outlet. Whereas before, you maybe had to take the chance of writing a book like my little sister did, where she knew the second she wrote that book, she was going to be attacked from all sides. It was going to be horrible. She was going to be mistreated. Now we have this umbrella coverage that allows us to talk about our stories that makes it far easier to do so. And while our parents should be caring and understanding, sometimes they're aggressive and nasty about the fact that we're just telling our stories. And look at parents, if we're lying, if we're embellishing, if we're not telling the truth, you're right. You have a right to say that, but we're not. We're not exaggerating at all when we talk about our experiences. These are
we may not be like quoting word for word exactly how it's going, but we're discussing the actions that take place. Like, for example, my mom cutting ties with me, it wasn't just like, hey, you need to shut up. Her angle, being the OSA person, was treating me like I was a constant threat. And she had been doing it for years and years and years before I even dreamed of saying a word. Like, I was just minding my own business, living my life, and they tried to ambush me at an airport once. She was trying to like do good roads, good weather with me a bunch of times. She was trying to pull strings with me about like people contacting me. I was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you?
Right.
And I was getting sick of it. And I had already expressed, some of my grievances to her about my just things that had happened. And I was met with, that didn't happen. I'm like, well, yeah, it actually happened to me. Like, literally happened to me. Yeah. And then it was kind of like, well, I know I did things wrong. I said, well, what do you mean? Like, if she's looking like, I mean, she said it. So I was like, well, okay, whatever. And this is after some years of back and forth on this kind of stuff. Like, just trying to be able to communicate what my issues were without being told I was lying, or turn it into good roads, good weather, which is really obnoxious when you're bringing up issues. But yeah. And then, shoot, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, so she brought up that she had done things wrong. I said, well, like what? I was curious to see. I mean, honestly, I was curious to see if she disagreed with any of the things I said, or if she had other things that she brought up, or maybe halfway disagreed with some things. Like, I don't know. I mean, to me, that would be really looking like, you might have brought this up, but I don't agree. Or here's one thing that I did see, that you didn't bring up, whatever, anything. Yeah. And instead, she just kind of rattled back the list of things that I had said in the past. And I'm like, I don't want to hear from you what I said you did. Like, if you're saying you did something wrong, go ahead and tell me. And if you disagree with what I said, go ahead and tell me that too. Like, let's open and have like a real discussion. And it just went again into this like weird thing again. I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not going to be a conditional daughter. I don't need a conditional family member. So kind of like balls in your court. And it was kind of like, well, I'll always love you because you're my firstborn and blah, 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 blah. And that was it. I was like, and then she went and told my dad that I disconnected from her. I'm like, no, I just said I didn't want a conditional family member. You could have come back at me and said,
I was about to say that one of their tactics is to turn that back on you, make it sound like you're disconnecting from them, because they know inevitably that you're going to talk about how they disconnected from you. And in the end, they really are disconnecting from you because they are trying to put in your relationship, they're trying to put the church there on your shoulder. And guess what? We're no longer part of Scientology. And I don't think the parents can grasp or understand that. We don't care about that minority religion. We don't care about their practices in their group. at all. Let us live our lives, but you will not separate that from the relationship of mother and father, daughter to son. They won't separate it. And I guess part of that is really frustrating. It's really frustrating not to get them to understand that you're not part of the church. You don't, like when I was told don't talk to Mark Headley by my parents, I'm like, guys, I'm not part of your church. I don't need to follow your rules. The guy was my friend. I don't care what you say. At the time, Mark Headley was giving me work so I could live my life, so I had enough money to feed myself. Like, I give a shit that you don't like him. And I told them at the time, hey, if he's saying something that's a lie, let me know. But I know he's not. And they couldn't say anything to that because they knew. And in my case, I was telling them stuff about David Miscavige. And I knew that Foster and Barbara knew David Miscavige was an obnoxious prick. They knew that David Miscavige was nasty, was vile, had a vicious, evil streak, and enjoyed the belittlement and the torture of people. They knew that because both of them had been a target of that, but they couldn't acknowledge it. And again, back to that is brainwashing, right? They are brainwashed to a large, large degree. So you need to give a little leeway to that, but at the same time, at some point, they got to come to the conclusion that you're their biological son or daughter, and they need to put some value into that. And it's sort of hard for them to understand that over Scientology, which is very frustrating in my mind. Very frustrating. So thank you for making me relive that through your through your life. Because but I actually enjoy talking to you because I've been through it. But it's really interesting to see you word for word tell me what I went through with my parents in regards to reading.
Yeah, like I've been talking to you as it goes. So you're hearing it kind of like, oh, now here's what's happening. And I'm not lying to you. I'm just saying, because I'm speaking to you as my friend and out of frustration and not sure what to do and even questioning myself. And then when you were like, oh, that's exactly what happened. And then this will be the next step. I was like, yeah, we'll see. And sure enough, the next email that comes in is exactly that. And I was like, oh my, okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think, and then the other frustrating thing, like you said, yes, is getting them to understand you're not part of that. And I think the other thing that's very frustrating is, and I don't get over this, is the choosing Scientology and its practices and people and everything over your child, to me it's just crazy. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I actually just refuse to understand it. I've tried looking at it a million different ways, but like, or maybe just a million different times, but like, no, if you have a child, then that is your responsibility. You need to take care of that person and bring them up in the world and be everything that a parent should be. And if you're not going to do it once, certainly don't do it again and again.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I've spoken to my father's family about this in detail. And it's interesting because in their mind, there's nothing that could turn them against their own children. Now, mind you, all my cousins are fantastic people. So I guess that's easy to say in some ways. But look, at Scientology professes to be pro the family unit, but in the end, they're really not. And, we spoke about this, and I want to bring up this interesting point. So you're one of 3 children. Is that right, Jenny?
Yes.
Okay, so am I. 4 essentially, but let's just imagine.
You just go to Foster Barbara section.
If you take both the parental units and you take myself, my twin brother Justin, my little half sister Jenna, and my half brother Nathan, there's 4 of us. But let's just do the math here for a second. This just will show you the depth of Scientology's brainwashing. Foster, my father, whom I love, and if he ever gets to watch this video, Dad, I still love you. Happy Father's Day. When you were there in my life, you were fantastic. You were a great father. You were loving, you were funny, you were kind. Sans Scientology, you would have been an excellent father. I truly believe that. And even the moments I've spent with you, I still believe that to some degree. I'm sorry that Scientology's come between us in our relationship. It's a really sad thing. But let's just take Foster, for instance. Okay. Foster's got 3 biological sons. That's myself. That's Justin, my twin brother, by Biddy, my mom. And then when Biddy and Foster split up, I went with Foster. Foster remarried to Barbara, my stepmother, and they had my half brother, Nathan. So Foster has 3 biological children, all boys. You, on the other hand, I think have one brother and one sister, 3 children, all by the same mom and dad.
Yeah, actually, I'm adopted in, but yes, essentially, he's been my dad since I was 2.
Oh, you were? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, did not know that.
Yeah, and she's my birth mom.
Right. And let's take your mom for example. Let's imagine this scenario where you have 3 children in the normal world. Mm-hmm. There's a chance that one of them is maybe a narcissist, is maybe a troublemaker, gets into trouble, becomes a drug addict, et cetera, all the things that can happen. That's going to happen. I mean, look at the famous scenario of Tom Hanks's kids, where they always make the joke, you name one kid Chet, you're going to get a Chet, right? Tom Hanks's kid, one kid is a total, faux gangster type personality, and the other 2 are these straight-laced Tom Hanks kids, right? Well, think about Foster. He's got 3 kids. All 3 kids are declared. All 3 kids are bad apples. All 3 children were in the C organization and eventually left. As a parent, what kind of cognitive dissonance do you need to let a church convince you that all 3 of your biological children are bad people? Now, I could actually understand that if you had 3 children, as a parent, you might believe one of them is a bad apple. It's possible. I don't approve of that. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's good parenting. But let's just imagine that you could believe that one of them is a bad apple. In my father's case, how could you not speak to all 3 of your biological children? How could all 3 of your biological children be bad just because your church says so? It's not possible. Statistically, it's not possible. Per church policy, it's not possible.
Right? That's the other thing. Like, even in their own policy, you got the 20%, but only 2% are actually like the real deal SPs, and then all of a sudden that whole 2% of Scientology is just the Tompkin kids. I don't think so.
Right. And then you go, well, seriously. Okay. So let's say Justin's the bad person. And I'm just saying that out loud because it's fun to say.
Because he's not here and we can.
Because he's not here. So 3 children, 33.33%, whatever. Justin's still only, 2/3 a bad person. There's a third of Justin that's still good. Why can't you talk to him? And what's his problem? That means Nathan and I should be 100% good. But math obviously does not work inside Scientology. You have your family where maybe your mom could assume that one of my kids are bad, or realistically speaking, Jenny, one of my kids is actually intelligent, and I'm talking about you, and is got a big enough personality and a strong enough desire to see what is really there, to be that person that speaks out or demands that things are fair or just. But it's just a weird anomaly to understand that, like in my father's case, you could disassociate from all 3 of your children. Can you imagine? I mean, even then, you're admitting that you're a bad parent because you could not, out of 3 chances, raise 1 child that was good for the world, essentially, right? It's weird to think about that math that way. I always have a hard time understanding that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the math isn't mathing, as they say.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think so. And it's really funny because, like I was saying kind of earlier, like I have definitely spoken with different people like who are experiencing different angles of this, just from like obviously while I still existed in that world. I mean, I was in the Sea Org. So when somebody blows and they get declared, then you go, okay, we have to cut all ties. I've also been in there when I had a friend who was in the Sea Org and then it was no longer, or even not even in the Sea Org. I even had some friends that were in the Cadet Org and were not in the Sea Org. And so between that, I kept getting told, you need to cut ties with these people. You need to disconnect. Like, these are external influences. And I was kind of like, no, I'm going to pass on that one because I'm not going to do it. And I would get like on and off pressure and pressure and pressure. And finally with one of them, because she was herself getting kind of pissed off and frustrated because I wasn't communicating with her like I used to. And it's because I was getting so much pressure on the other end to cut that tie. And so now I'm trying to be extra careful to make very, very certain I'm not crossing any lines that could make it look like an external influence or whatever. And then to the point where she's got irritated, she was like, what kind of conversations are you even having? Like, forget it. And then she cut ties with me, you know, and then coming out, I've seen people who have like are existing in the Scientology world, and they have a lot of traumatic experiences like we do. And they just don't say anything, and they're very, very quiet because they don't want to lose the very little family they have and some of their friends. And then there's people who have left that are not even connecting with any Scientologists of any kind, but they also fear the organization because of its past history of being very like litigious and all that. So they just sit there with all of their trauma and upset, and they just stay it very, very quiet because they don't want to have Scientology come after them. And, and honestly, that still scares me a little bit to this day. I know that a lot of people are speaking out, and there's safety in numbers, I guess you can say, or whatever. And I think I kind of don't care if they do come after me, because I really just want to get everything out. I want it to be out of my system. I want to stop having to experience this by myself, But back to my list of people I've talked to, I've also talked to parents who have had to disconnect from children for them getting declared or going into bad standing. Because sometimes it's not even declared. Sometimes it's literally just being in a bad standing and you are not talked to. It goes around the whole like rumor mill, like just, she's like a bad apple, stay away, And, and then parents who, I've seen parents who literally like will go, my kid is an SP and I'm having none of that. And I've seen parents, one person in particular, have full meltdowns repeatedly, because they lost their first one child, and then because the other decided to stick with the sibling, then lost the second one. And it would just like, it didn't matter what like Scientology assist or auditing thing. It went on for like months and months and months of just like something would just remind them, and then they would just break down into like crying and upset over it. And it just was like, it was so heartbreaking because the kids were not old. They were like early 20s and I think middle teenager or whatever. And it was just, I don't know. So I've kind of seen all these different angles. And then you look at how things are in the world out here. And yeah, sometimes people do sever ties because the relationship is just toxic and it's terrible. And somebody maybe legitimately, completely is a sociopath, and you got to get away from them. So these things you understand, but like a lot of times when you have a disagreement, let's say on the subject of Scientology, or maybe a different religion, or maybe their job or whatever, they just work past it and they agree to disagree on things. Sometimes maybe they agree not to talk about it with each other. It's kind of like, but they don't sit there and try to like now excommunicate them, get them kicked out of the family, make sure everyone at work hates them, like that is like junior high school kind of mentality. You know what I mean? Like just out here, you either resolve it or you agree to disagree. You just sort of move past it. Look, this is not a topic. But you don't have to cut a tie with somebody because you have a simple disagreement. Like, politics went crazy, back a few years back or whatever. But I have friends who sit on both sides, and I have friends who sit on both sides, and we're friends. Right. We don't just go, oh, well, I'm going to hate you now for the rest of your life because you think this and my other friend thinks this. And, it's just ridiculous, Well,
and it's interesting too, because if you were to take the heart of Scientology policy, one of their main staples, which is the dynamics, the 8 dynamics that comprise life, of which the second one is sex and family. And you go, well, wait a second. Let's say I'm one of 3 children and my parents got declared and my little sister and my brother went with them and I then disconnected from them. Scientology lore, Scientology policy says that if you damage in any way that second dynamic, it's going to start damaging the remainder of your dynamics in life. So how do you justify that? Like, how does my dad justify in his mind that he once had 3 children that he no longer has? That all of which, except for Justin, would be willing to talk to him, because Justin's really not close to foster. I just use that as an example. Justin was not raised by foster, but Nathan and I were.
Right.
How do you justify it in your head? You've completely thrown away family. Now, he may justify it by going to visit the family every once in a while, by going to see his sisters or something along those lines, or that it's better to get rid of Sterling and Nathan because they're toxic to Scientology, which ironically we weren't at the time. But it's so weird for them to understand, guys, Scientology says if you let one part of any dynamic slip, then the rest will be affected.
The rest follow. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
How is it possible you could disconnect from your family? And yes, and I agree with you by the fair roads, fair weather, that whole shtick is absurd to me. And guys, if you'd ever seen it happen live, with family, it's
it's worse than not having that connection at all. Like it's the most fake. It ignores everything that is important to you, and it ignores everything that hurt you or makes you happy. It's just this whole cheesy, like, fake crap. It's like it is very, it's very weird too at the same time. If you look at it from, like, if you were like watching somebody having this conversation, between, like, say you and Foster, and you're going, like, pouring your heart out, and he's like, oh, I totally got that. Hey, how's the weather out there? Is it sunny? Are you catching some waves? Oh, that's great. And you're like, like someone looking at that would be like,
what's happening?
Like,
and even
this is deranged.
Yeah, last year I went to a celebration of life for my uncle who was married to my father's sister. Fantastic person. Everyone loved him. Nicest person in the world. And I bumped into Foster and Barbara there, and there was a whole story before that of him asking whether I was going to be there or not, and a whole kerfluffle. And my family, because they're awesome people, stood up for me, and sided with me on that we want Sterling there. He's important to us, and we don't want Scientology to interfere with our family. And I love them so much for that. But it was interesting to see that even there, Jenny, he didn't even do fair roads and fair weather with me. He didn't ask me how I was doing. He didn't say what's up. He was just kind of distant a little bit and weird, which was really tough in a way.
That would be really hard.
It was, except for the fact that I had all the love of the rest of my family there. And that kind of sugarcoated it in a way. Foster's family are amazing, amazing people. They really, really are. And I'm lucky in that way to have them, and their cousins and their relatives. And they're just a good group of people. And I so much enjoy being around them. That took off the edge that came with that. But it would be interesting, like you say, Jenny, if someone could actually witness a conversation that we had, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked to see the disassociation that can occur between a parent and a child, how cold and removed they could be in conversation. It's rather upsetting. It's not the same level as Phil Anderson ignoring Laura at the New Year's event on a street in LA, but I don't know. It's almost like being ignored completely is almost better in some ways, but I don't want to speak for anyone else. It's a strange feeling. And I know from talking to you the last couple of months that you've experienced it. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. It's like, I guess I was just trying to picture it as you were talking. I would agree with you. For me, it's easier to not talk than to have really fake conversations where there is absolutely nothing. Like, it's like there's nothing underneath the surface. There's no real conversation. There's no understanding of any kind. It's the only understanding is to give you what they call an acknowledgement, like, okay, I got that. And then followed by what's in their mind is, okay, now I just need you to shut up. Now that I've given you a really good acknowledgement, I completely understand all of your upset and that everything was terrible to this point and you were abused and all these things are absolutely horrible and you should never have had to experience them, blah, 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 blah. But we really need you to shut up now.
Right.
It's like, but did you understand a single thing that I said? And it causes so much like stress to not be able to have that with the person who is your parent. And then, or like have conversations where all they're doing is handle. And it's like, holy moly.
And you can tell, because you were there, you can tell it's scripted. Look at Jenny, you're about 8 years behind me in this. Mm-hmm. So I've given up on even talking to Foster and Barbara whenever I've had the chance about, I wouldn't even mention Scientology to them. It's just not even beneficial to me because I kind of know where I'm getting, but you're still 8 years behind me in that thing. And I completely have empathy and understand where you're at and know the frustration. And just to clarify, one of the reasons why Jenny and I wanted to have this conversation today, guys, is because I believe she does, and I know I do, truly believe that these sort of conversations are the type of conversations that if someone that's still in may end up watching, may see, or someone that's on their way out, or someone that's already left, they will be able to relate to this because this does happen to everybody. Mm-hmm. In one way or another, one form or another. This conversation with your parents, if they choose to remain in Scientology and be a Scientologist and you have left, you're going to have the same conversation because it is a controlled conversation. It is a dictated conversation. It is controlled completely by Scientology ethics officers or the Office of Special Affairs. It's going to be the same every time. But it is frustrating as a child. It is really frustrating as a child. Yeah.
It is. Even as grown children, it hurts a lot. But even if like exactly what you're saying, the ethics person or OSA, and if that handling and conversations are not going the way they want it to, they start to amp it up and they get frustrated and they get angry and OSA needs you to be quiet. So now the person who's supposed to be handling you will start to be like, you need to be like less reasonable. And in Scientology, reasonable has its own definition. It doesn't mean you're being logical. It means that you're being okay with things that are bad. You're being you're like basically in agreement with or being okay with.
It's a very black and white world. There's no nuances, there's no shades of gray. It's black or white. But you know what's interesting is it is funny for them to not, they do not understand that when we left the SEER organization, we said in most cases, it doesn't apply to everyone, obviously. There's people that did auditing after they left, that became an independent after they left, that did these things. But in a lot of cases, most of us said, we are done. We are not doing that anymore. We don't abide by your rules. And it's so funny that they can't understand that concept. They truly believe that we are essentially going to hell if we don't continue to apply Scientology to our lives. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Because disassociating from Scientology and doing those things you love and finding new friends and finding a new group is the true path to freedom, is the thing that's going to set you free and really, really make you happy. They can't grasp that concept because they believe without Scientology, you can't be happy. And that is absurd.
Right. And even if you think health wise, like outside of the fact that you can get health insurance out here and you can actually see a doctor or dentist when you need one, but like even just like the stress levels, the amount of stress that they put on you when you're in there is absolutely maniacal, and it is intense and it is crazy. And they don't call it stress though. They call it necessity level. And if you aren't like a frazzled, haggard, like half dead person because you haven't slept in 5 days, you don't have necessity level there to deal with the world or whatever the project is, or, something stupid. And so you're always like bent out of shape. You're kind of like a live wire. And it's just as like, and you come out and like, I remember working one of my jobs, right? And this was actually a big turning point for me. I was working at one of the jobs in the line of work that I do now. And I was, working on some stuff, and we had the audit coming up, and, we're getting ready for all that. And my boss was like, oh, hey, where are we at on whatever it was. And I was like, okay, well, I did this and this and this. I didn't quite get it done, but I know the auditors are coming. So I'm just going to stay. I'm going to get it done. I promise it'll be done before I leave. Right. And I guess I must have been like displaying some kind of like stress. I wasn't even aware of it. And she looks at me and she goes, no, she goes, it'll be here tomorrow when you get here. I was like, are you sure? You know, she goes, yeah, it's not going anywhere. She's like, it's going to be fine. She goes, you know what? When 5 o'clock rolls around, you just walk out that door. Like, that's it. Bye. You know, kind of like, this is not like, you don't need to like, kind of like worry about things so much. And I was kind of like, oh.
Yeah, you say that no nonchalantly. But guys, I have to tell you, it is unbelievable, specifically with the ex-Sea Org members. It is so hard to walk out when you have not completed what you've done. The concept of leaving before you finished. There was never a timestamp. There was never, I get out of here by this time. You wanted to, but you know that you had to finish what you were doing. And I run into that so many times where it's like, Sterling, why aren't you left yet? Well, I want to finish this thing. But why are you staying late? Do it tomorrow.
That's
no,
true.
I want to get it done today. It's our curse to bear. It's actually quite funny. Now, sometimes I get it. If I'm doing something I enjoy, like video editing, you know, I'll stay longer, but it is pretty unbelievable because inside the Sea organization and a lot of part of Scientology, everything's an emergency when nothing really is. When nothing really is, though, that's the thing. It's like, it needs to be done tomorrow.
Like, the stress, and they call it necessity level, and they stress you the heck out. And like, but like my boss having that conversation with me, and I remember thinking, you know, maybe I need to look at work from a different angle and different perspective. Not from the green on white, L. Ron Hubbard policy, black on white, flag orders, like how you get work done, like all the things he said, problems of work, all that stuff. And I'm not saying that none of it's true, because believe me, some of what he wrote about exists in other organizations. He was not the first to come up with it. Like,
no, it makes sense. I still write a list of things to do every day. I mean, it makes sense. It helps you keep track. Yeah,
that and org charts are normal.
I don't call it a battle plan because it's not a battle, guys.
It's not a battle.
We don't need the stress of calling it a battle plan. It's a to-do list. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah. And it's like, but you know, it's funny because then I was like, you know, I gotta like stop trying to apply the LRH policies and flag orders to the things I'm doing in my everyday existence. And instantly, I'm not even joking, like the next day I came in, and it's not that I got rid of all those habits in a day, but every time I noticed me doing something like that, I would just stop it and do the way my boss told me, or the way a course had told me, like that I learned, you know, from being out here. And I just little by little let it go. And within the year, I'm not even kidding, I started making almost 3 times as much money.
Right. That's awesome.
And I'll tell you what, I don't work as much. I don't work 3 times harder than I did. I'm just saying, like, no offense to my boss, I'm getting all my stuff done. But I don't, like, I'm not like.
Yeah, be careful what you say. I have 2-hour lunches. I take 3 30-minute breaks. I'm not working that hard, but I'm paid well.
I get to leave. I don't go until 9. I get to leave at 4:30. And like, whatever.
No, you know, it's interesting because it's kind of a well-known thing that people that have left the Sea organization do have a very, very high level of work ethic when it comes to finishing. Now, I get that's not the case with everyone, because some people are like, fuck this, I've been doing it my whole life, I'm not doing it anymore. I do find probably like you that I do have a very high work ethic. But here's the thing though, I love what I'm doing. That's the advantage. I really, truly enjoy what I do. So I don't mind putting in the extra effort and staying, and I work for the best people in the world. And I truly, you know, whether you believe in karma or not, Jenny, I believe that I ended up with the people I ended up with for a reason. The universe was on my side. God was on my side. Whatever, Thanos was on my side. I don't care who it was, Darth Vader. They were on my side. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jabba the Hutt. They were on my side because my brother's girlfriend's kids just left, by the way, and they're watching Star Wars. sequentially, because they're 7 years old, 6 years old. So they're getting to watch all of Star Wars sequentially. And I'm actually kind of jealous. I wish I could wipe my mind and do that from the beginning. And I had an extra lightsaber here. Yes, I had an extra Millennium Falcon here. Yes, I had a Star
Empire
Wars
Strikes Back is still the best one. Period.
Always the best. And I told them that today, always the best. And that's what the one they're in the middle of. And I think I may have ruined the scene when I told them that Luke Skywalker lost their hand. And I apologize. Any of you that are watching in my chat, in the chat, that have not seen Empire Strikes Back, and I just ruined it for you, tough shit.
It's still the best one. So if you haven't seen it,
yeah, that's on you. But it was so funny. I gave them a lightsaber and they just lit up. And I actually happen to have Thor's hammer as well. So I gave them that. They almost destroyed my place, by the way.
Good.
But yeah, so no, it's, you know, it's funny, Jenny. Part of my heart always goes out to my dad specifically. And I go, I wish he would just leave. So the last 30, 20, 40, whatever amount of years he has left, he could really just enjoy life and not be working for a useless cause, not be dictated by Dave Miscavige, not be held down by the Sea Organization or Scientology. And he could just enjoy his life because he's a wonderful spirit and he's a great guy. And I really wish he could come out so that I could spend that time with him. I really, if there's a Father's Day wish, if there's a message on Father's Day, that's what I wish, because look, at some people may have had a bad experience with my dad Foster, but I think most people know he's actually quite an amazing person and a great guy, and truly loves people and wants to help. And the same could be said for Barbara, for sure. Maybe even more.
They were definitely. I mean, I liked them both. I thought they were both great people. I mean, they're both very nice. They're both easy to get along with. They're very rational about things, generally speaking, except for obviously this issue. But like when you're in there, I mean, and like you said, we talked about this, I think probably several times we've talked about this, like there were different types of parents in there, and some were very attentive and some went, really tried as hard as they could given the circumstances. And, some just kind of went with the flow of the Sea Org, which wasn't geared towards children. Like I was thinking about Patrick Howson's mom. She literally, I remember when they canceled Family Time, she showed up at the Cadet Org or ATA to do her family time with him. There were people there from the Sea Org. We're all watching this as kids, telling her she has to go back to post. And she's sitting there like having a massive fit. Like, I don't think so. We were told we can have this by LRH. I've written to him. We're allowed to have it. I'm going to see my kid. And she sat there and fought with them and argued with them. And she ended up like trying to run that sucker straight up the flagpole to get somebody to try and fix something about it. And, eventually I think personally, that was one of the reasons she ended up leaving, because she was like, oh, I don't think so. Like I have children. Like, yeah. I'm not going to not be around them. And then, and then you have like the other situation. I feel so bad bagging on my parents a lot. Like my dad really tried later in life to be, more there, and especially my time when I first came out, he was there a lot for me. And I have to give him credit for that, because I was so lost. I was just drowning in blackness at that time. Right. And he didn't hesitate. I was under watch and I called him, and while I'm under watch against any church policy, he booked me a plane ticket so I could come out there. And, the Sea Org dentist had destroyed my teeth, like so bad, like while I was under. So I didn't even know she was going to do what she did. What she explained to me came across completely different than what she ended up doing. It ended up putting me in a world of pain. It was really awful, like probably one of the most painful things I've experienced. And so one of them, not the, but, so he helped me get it fixed up. And that was, we're talking like thousands of dollars to get it fixed. That's how much damage. And so like, I have to give him that, like, and he, tried his best to kind of make sure I stayed doing well and everything like that. So I do have to give him credit for that. But like in my younger years, like he and my mom left to Flag and left me at the CEO, like with a caretaker who then had to go and couldn't stay with me. And so I went from another one to another one to another one to another one, to the point I couldn't even tell you a single name. I couldn't recognize a single face. I never knew who was going to pick me up. I got left there a couple of times, like overnight at the daycare. It's like, I don't know. It's weird. And then I was thinking about the things that we used to run around and do when we were 8, 9, and 10, like all over LA. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Me and Erica got on this was a one-time thing. We did this a lot, actually. We find quarters in like vending machines or payphone little things. We find people don't pick up their change. So we got enough quarters, because I think the city bus used to only cost a quarter or 50 cents or something. And as long as you were going all the way in one way, you can get a transfer without paying for it. So we got enough money, went to Santa Monica, spent the day at the beach, and then went around to different vending machines, pay phones around there, looked on the ground, collected up enough coins to get the bus back home. My parents probably didn't even wonder where I was. Like,
no, it's kind of, so some of those things are formative pieces of our life that make us who we are, as headstrong as we are, as confident as we are. But also you have to acknowledge the bad parenting in that regard. But again, you know, it's funny because we all grew up in the Sea organization, a lot of us, but vastly different experiences in some ways. But I think there's an acknowledgement towards the parents, you know, who tried, even though they were convinced that child raising in some cases should be turned over to an organization like Scientology. You could still feel when their heart was in the right place. And I believe you have that feeling about at least one of your parents. And there is a difference. I mean, even Justin explains that Justin was raised far different than I was. It is a known fact that Foster and Barbara were far easier going, far more lax, more, you know, just chill than maybe Ronnie and Biddy were, for sure. You know, like, you know, Barbara would get me tickets to a Dodger game when I was 8 years old and give me $1 to catch the bus down Sunset. I'd go to the Dodgers game with 4 tickets behind home plate. I would sell 3 of those tickets, make $20, buy my souvenirs, buy my hot dogs, and take the bus back at 10 o'clock at night on my own. Now, not great parenting in a lot of regards.
But that's better than I got.
Yeah, she went out of her way to give me something to do. You know, and I remember as a kid, I would make a little pillow fortress in our little tiny apartment. And my dad had a TV, which was rare because we lived off property because he was in Bridge Publications, which was at the time the publications department. So for tax reasons, they did not live on the Sea Org premises, but 100 yards away from L. Ron Hubbard Way.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to stay up until 12, 1 o'clock at night watching Star Trek reruns in my little fort just so I could say goodnight to my dad. Just so I could see him.
That's funny.
That's crazy. I remember this, and he would sometimes get upset at me why I was up that late at night.
So when they came around and took all the TVs, they didn't take yours?
What?
So when they came around and took all the TVs, they didn't take yours?
No, because we were not on base. Nope.
Oh my God. Nope. Yeah, we had our TV swiped.
Yeah, but you had
they were
pool,
like,
so. You had a pool, so.
Hey, that wasn't until later. I had to wait till I was 9 to get that pool. And then I was in the cadet org, so I wasn't even allowed to use it. So there. I had to work.
I got in trouble with my dad because I would tell people. So my dad used to do this Friday night thing where he would rent one Transformers cartoon for Nathan and I to watch, and then he'd rent a really bad B. My dad has terrible taste in movies. He sucks. Like, he would get the worst movies ever. He'd buy one terrible movie that no one else would like. He'd buy the frozen microwavable Stouffer's pizza on French bread. And that was our Friday night routine. He'd get home at whatever, 10, 11, 12, whatever it was that night. We'd make the pizza. We'd watch our 30-minute Transformers cartoon and then watch whatever movie he wanted, to which I would normally fall asleep with my little brother because it was horrible. And that was our routine. And I remember that so much. And I was not allowed to talk to everyone about it because I didn't realize no one else had TVs at the time. By the way, our little 13-inch TV with, you know, a dial on the front that only got 13 channels. I also had a Nintendo too at that time. So, you know, but I would have traded that for a pool, Jenny. So, you know.
I'm sorry, a Nintendo cost a lot of money back in those days.
I actually don't know how we got the Nintendo, but we did. I used to play that with Justin and Nathan, Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so my brother got a Nintendo. You know, because after my dad was out of the Sea Org, he was still having to work a lot. You know, because he used to start from nothing, and so we were always still really tight on money. It wasn't like we ever had it, but like my brother would do odd jobs, and the deal my dad would make is that if we raised half of the money for something we wanted, he'd kick in the other half. So my brother went asking everyone anywhere to do any kind of work for them for any amount of money. And he did. He collected up half of what he needed for the Nintendo thing. And and then, yeah. So, and my brother had it different too. I was talking to my dad about this because he's like, kind of like, I guess he was understanding why he's,
Is he the young? QC's the youngest?
No, Lori is.
Lori,
so,
okay. He's the middle then. Okay.
Yeah. And so Lori, she had the cadet experience much like I did. But my brother, because I used to take care of him all the time, I just didn't make him do the same thing. Like, so he did some cadetting, but not much, because he would just tell me like, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to go on missions, or I don't want to go to muster, or I don't want to do this or that. I'd be like, well, what do you want to do? And he'd say like, I want to go to the park. So then I would just take him to the park. Or he wanted to go to his friend's house, so I'd walk him up to his friend's house. And so he really didn't have that experience. He was like probably not even like a tenth of the way into the cadet org. He was pretty much every weekend I was pretty much taking him either to his acting class or to his friend's house, or I took him and my sister to this art project thing, and that would happen every weekend. I would take him to the park, and this is after I had gotten kicked out. And so now it would be his years to be in the cadet org. And so I was able to do that. But then I joined the Sea Org as my sister was coming into that age. So she got put back with like into the cadet org life, where for a little while she would come with me and QC, like I'd take them both. But then when I went into the Sea Org, she had to kind of go there. But by then QC was already like, he was way too young to be in the Sea Org, but he was really wanting to be. And funny of all things, he was joining OSA, and they promised him he would only have to work, because he was so young. They told him that he would only have to work, I think, 20 hours a week. The rest of the time he'd be on study or at school. And yeah, so he and I think it was Sheldon or Brendan O'Hare. One of the, they always hang out together, so I can't remember who was who. They're all Sheldon.
It was probably Sheldon because Brendan O'Hare was up at the base at that time.
Okay, yeah.
Later on,
so. For a while, actually, Brendan used to stay at our house, like almost lived there. I actually wondered at some point if he had parents. Yeah. And so he eventually was gone. So maybe he went up to the Int Ranch, like you said.
He did.
So yeah, Sheldon. And it makes sense because Sheldon's mom was, I think, in OSA.
Right.
And
I think she was. Yes. You know, I was very close to your brother at Golden Era Productions.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He went up to Gold because remember OSA Int were Int cleared.
Yep.
And so he went up there for something. And he decided that he wanted to stay there. So he actually managed to get himself transferred to Gold somehow.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even remember when he arrived or how he arrived. I got to say, it would be hard put to find someone that could complain about QC Strom. He was just a sweetheart, a nice kid. Everyone liked him. He was nice. Even, again, these things go a long, long way, Jenny, as you know. When you're in the shit, when you're in trouble, when everyone hates you, when you're being treated like crap, QC's one of the people that refuse to go there.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I know that maybe your relationship with him when you left may be strained, but I'm just saying when I was there and we were peers, he was always nice. He was always lent a hand, would always help out, and was just a good kid in general. He worked for a tyrant, but he was
just good to his very core. Like he was very mellow. He was not an explosive, volatile person.
Not at all.
Like ever.
Not at all.
Like ever.
And quite factually a genius when it came to audio visual, special effects.
And computer
and
type. Yeah, absolutely. He takes to it like super quick. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, like so it is definitely like that's his thing. Like he gravitates to it, but he also it comes to him real easy. Like it's definitely his thing. And yeah, the only time he ever got like super explosive was with my sister. Like really? The two of them. Oh my God, they fought so violently.
Because like Jen and I have never argued in our entire lives. We've never disagreed on a single thing. So that makes sense. No, look.
QC and I rarely fought. We did a few times, but pretty rarely.
Seriously, but we'll take this opportunity to tell QC, hey QC, if you ever get a chance to watch this video, you have a ton of support out here. The SPTV
I kept my promise. I haven't changed my phone number. I said I would keep my phone number.
The SPTV
in case
Foundation,
he ever wants to talk.
The Aftermath Foundation, any foundation that deals with ex-Scientology will help you get on your feet. But once you're on your feet, dude, you have a set of skills that is unmatched. You'll be able to make money and earn a living almost instantly. I know another kid named John Lindstein, just like you, who makes a boatload of money and is so successful. You guys are at the same skill level when it comes to video editing, post-production, special effects. So dude, if you ever get out, you've got a lot of people here for you. A lot of people.
Yeah.
That goes to Kerry Clark as well, who's Shane Clark's brother and was one of my best friends.
Kerry still in there?
Kerry Clark's still there. Another person like your brother who's just a good person, who doesn't know any better. And
Kerry was also, yes, Kerry was also a very, very nice guy. Like, and always was. Like, I feel like there's always one of them in every little set. Like, no. I didn't know he was in there still.
And then you and I are the hot and cold people in the family. You either love us or you hate us.
Yeah. I'm like one of these things where people are like always, how are you so calm? And then like but if you push me, there's a point that I can be pushed to. And if you push me to there, I will hold it mellow for a very long time. But if you push me hard enough and far enough, I am absolutely not the person that you want to be doing that with.
Which is
I will say some very mean stuff.
Yeah. Now I know we've gotten slightly off topic, but really the conversation today was to talk to Jenny about the disconnection and the dealing with the parents. And Jenny, I would love to do this again with you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to schedule, in case you guys were wondering, I know that Reese has moved and I'm so excited for her. I kind of, gave her space. We've been texting back and forth, but I cannot wait to get back on with Reese and have a conversation with her. She's another person that I adore and I love talking to. But in regards to today, we wanted to speak about the disconnection and the parents thing, because it is interesting. Look at all
let me say something on this before you end this, because I think this is important.
We're going to do questions now. We're going to do some questions before we go.
Okay. Yeah. I do want to say, because, I see what you're saying. Okay, I just didn't want you to cut it off before I do this, because a lot of people have probably heard this now where Scientology says, we don't force disconnection. We don't make people disconnect. And then you get the Scientologists will say, yeah, it was our decision. We decided. And then you have to understand what happens to that person if they don't make that decision.
Yeah.
They no longer go up the bridge, which is everything a Scientologist is working for and paying for. Mm-hmm. They could lose family. They could lose friends. They will lose work, most likely, because it's all intertwined. And so there's the church or Scientology or whatever can sit there and say, we don't make people do that. Now, first of all, it's in your policy. So yes, you do. Yeah. But second of all, when the parents come at you and say, or like your friends or family, whatever, and say, well, this is our decision, it's because of the consequence they face if they do not make that decision. Regardless of anything they might say or excuse or bullshit they might come up with, the bottom line is that, like, the tough thing that my dad has to face right now is, like, it's me or his other kids. And he's not that kind of person. He wasn't raised that way. The way he was raised, and I know my grandmother very well, you have families, and families may go in different directions. They may have different beliefs, but you're still a family, and you still, you work with what each other doesn't agree with. But like, and so I know he's trying. He's really trying hard, and I'm trying to communicate as much as I can with him, because I'm not going to be the one to cut that tie. I'm not going to do it. And so, I'm taking some breaks here and there because it's very overwhelming. It's very hard, but I know it's also very hard for him. But that's the problem that these people face. So whenever you hear somebody saying it was our decision, it's still because of the consequence they face within the Scientology world and that whole bubble, that whole existence. Anyways, okay, that's all.
They justify it because guess what? The church does not say you must disconnect from Jenny right now. That is true. They do not say that. And they do not say that to protect themselves. They say, this is our policy. You know what you have to do. If you can't handle her, then you know
handle, disconnect.
She's a suppressive person and you know what you have to do. They will not directly say it. They will not put it in writing that Joe Blow has to disconnect. They will not do that. So they're telling a partial truth when they say that, but that's part of the cognitive dissonance that they have. They believe that they're making that choice of their own free will, and they are not. They are not.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to know what in my father and my stepmother's head, what their real reason for disconnecting from me is. Because I know in their heart of hearts, they know who I am. You know,
right.
They knew I stood up for them. When I was told they were bad people, when I was told, when they were both booted out of Golden Era Productions and sent down to LA, which was a lower base, and I was told they were a bad person, I told that person that told me that to go fuck himself. I didn't care what Scientology told me about my parents, because guess what? There's no way they knew my parents better than me. I grew up with them. I knew the heart that Barbara had. I knew the heart that Foster had. I refused to believe it. And I only wish they would at least have the courtesy to provide the same sort of firm stance in my regards, which they didn't. And I understand that they've been brainwashed a lot longer. They're a whole different generation than we are. I mean, we even talk about the horrific things that happened as a child, Jenny, but also it was the 80s. It was a different time period. Yeah, I wasn't the only kid going to Dodger games by myself, and you weren't going to Santa Monica by yourself. But yeah. Obviously, Scientology was not an ideal place. On the contrary, it was a horrible place to raise a child. It really, really was. But, you know, my parent wasn't a cult. And, you know, I think the best thing we can do now is give them love, give them understanding, but hold our ground. Don't budge.
Yeah.
Don't move from that. Yeah. We're not Scientologists. We're not Sea Org members. We don't follow the rules of that organization and that pseudo church anymore. And we haven't for a long, long time. And they need to acknowledge and understand that fact. If you're speaking out now, Jenny, you are, I am, it's only because we were pushed to that point, because we lost so much.
There's truth in that, because like I said, my mom has been treating me like this for years. I remember when she was the one who actually ended up telling me about the whole Scientology and the Aftermath show. I had absolutely no idea it even existed, because I hadn't had cable for however many years, because I was being too cheap at the time. And I was only doing like Netflix or whatever. And I didn't know anything about it. And she was trying to find out if people from the show were in touch with me or whatever. I don't know. It was these weird cryptic questions. And I was finding like, what are you trying to get at? Like, I don't even understand this conversation. First of all, she hadn't even talked to me in like a year. And then she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then she's pulling, as they call it, pulling strings. And then finally she was like, yeah, I just wanted to know if somebody maybe had put like 2 and 2 together. I'm like, 2 and 2 of what? Like, what are you talking about? And she goes, well, you know that like I'm your mother, you're my daughter. I'm like, who would even care? Like, what kind of a weird question is this? Nobody cares if we're related. And then she goes, well, and then she told me about the Aftermath show. And I was like, well, first of all, you think I'd actually go do a show like that? Because I was still in the mind frame of not upsetting, not causing any waves. I was kind of down with it myself, but I wasn't going to, you know, it wasn't a thing to me. I just, you know, whatever. I was like, oh, I guess you don't really know me. That's weird. And then I was kind of like, oh shit, I wonder what this show's about. So after I hung up with her, I went on to Netflix, and luckily
you hadn't seen the show before she mentioned it?
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of it. I didn't even know it existed.
Talk about a foot bullet. They're really not that smart, guys. I look, when you're following a guy from the 50s that still had reel-to-reel cassettes in the mid-90s, I mean, not the sharpest tools in the shed for sure. You know what I mean? Like, unbelievable. Look, that show, the Aftermath show. Look, every time I meet someone new and I'm talking to them and we get talking about our life and our history, and I mention Scientology and they say something, I always ask, where'd you first hear about Scientology? being bad. One for one, it's always that show. So many people, I wouldn't go near that. I saw that show, and that always makes me happy and smile. It's like that show rocked them. They will never recover from that show. Never.
Yeah, I think
and it's the impetus for a lot that followed. And I don't want to forget either. I do not want to forget Going Clear either, which was also unbelievable.
I've talked to a lot of people who, like, I know so I'm in touch with some people who are at the daycare with us who never made it even into the cadet org. They actually left from there.
Oh,
and
wow.
And
that's probably because I peed in their shampoo bottle, but that's okay.
I will be sure to let them know in case they see you.
Statute of limitations has been reached on that one, so we're good.
They'll piss in your beer or something before they hand it to you.
Don't invite me out if you have them in town, please. I don't want.
Okay, I won't then. I promise.
Yeah.
No, but they saw Going Clear. They're like, "Hey, did you see this?" And I was like, "Oh, let me go check that out." So then I went and saw that one, and then I remember before I had actually I used to have really bad, another side effect of the Sea Org was my sleep deprivation was really, really bad. I couldn't sleep afterwards. So I used to stay up all night watching whatever was on late night TV. And so the South Park episode came on and I was like, and I remember thinking, is this a joke? And then it had to think, this is what they really believe. And I was like, no, this must be some, just be some thing. And then when I heard Going Clear, I was like, And then there was a podcast that I heard even years afterwards where an OT was talking about how they felt when they were first encountering that information and how they felt at the time. And then looking back at it now, how they feel about themselves for even believing that. And I was like, oh my God, it really is true. And that broke me because I was like, I spent my whole life in there for that. I feel like a moron. I was like, oh my God.
No, I didn't feel like a moron.
I felt like told me that.
I felt like that's awesome. There's really aliens.
I felt so stupid. I was like slaving away for helping people get body veins. What?
And then when you woke up the next day, you didn't die of pneumonia. I actually didn't see it there. Jenny, someone sent me the link to the original leaked OT materials. I read it online.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading it with caution and being like, don't read it too fast. Be careful.
How's my throat feeling?
When I read it, I went, are you joking? That's the wall of fire? That's the big secret? Oh my God. No lightsabers, no force, no Darth Vader. That's the story? You suck, dude. That's fucked up. They paid $300,000 for that. I could get a $7 ticket to Star Wars and get a much better story. No, it was stupid beyond belief. Yeah.
There's no moving shampoo bottles with your mind. Shout out to Justin.
Shout out to Justin. I truly believe he still does that, but I have no way of proving it because I don't bathe with him anymore.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's funny because obviously I know Justin from the Cadet Org, but I don't know him like I know you because I've known you since we were probably 4 or 5 or something. For as long as I can remember in the daycare over to the Cadet Org and then into the Sea Org, you were always there. And then just one day, all of a sudden, Justin was there. We're like, who is this kid?
He was more aloof. He was more aloof too. I was, he was a Miscavige, so he was a little bit cooler. And he dated your friend Carly Sarkovich, if you remember.
Yes, he did.
He was also a lot stronger and bigger than me, so he could kick anyone's butt, but I couldn't. I was just a
he could do gymnastics really good too. You remember that?
That's right. He could do gymnastics like no one's business. When he left the Sea Organization, he did competitive diving for a while.
Wow! Holy smokes!
And then I ran into a girl, a Scientologist lady, at a house party once, and I was talking to her, and she told me about this guy that would show up to all the pool parties wearing a Speedo, and I found out that was Justin.
He's trying to show off his little package there.
Yes. Yes. The key word being little.
Shoving socks in there and everything, giving the extra bulge.
And by the way, just so it's clear, this is completely fair. I spent 2 hours with Justin today, and he harassed me the entire time. So I have an opportunity to do it in a public forum in front of 255 people, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But in the end,
oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So you want to hit some questions really quickly, Jenny?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, here we go. First and foremost, hey, Matt Elliott, MAA, SPTV Canada. Jenny, I've said this a million times. I think everyone from Canada is awesome. I've yet to meet someone from Canada, and the first being Mathieu and Philippe Dubé that we grew up with, if you remember. Mathieu and Philippe, French Canadians.
Are they still in?
I think they are. I saw Philippe in New York City in 2008 or 2009. He was in CMO East US or whatever, and I was just visiting, and I don't know how I had his number, how I had his contact, but I reached out to him, and he came and met me in New York City. We grabbed a coffee and lunch and just caught up. Of course, it was very good roads, good weather, but it was still fun to talk to him. And then Matthew, his mom was French Canadian, so she said Mathieu. And but we called him Mathieu because
we called him Mathieu.
Yeah, we didn't know that was his name. But
we called his brother Philippe, not Philippe.
Yeah, Philippe. It was Philippe, right? Yeah.
Okay, we said Philippe. I mean, I don't know. We were so American. It's horrible.
Yeah, Sterling, were you out when Jenna wrote her book? Yes, I was. What were your thoughts when it was released? I absolutely loved it. I know that wasn't the consensus for everyone in the family. I loved it. I was so proud of her. I thought it was a fantastic book. It is a fantastic book. There was a couple not statements, but periods that, at least in my timeline, that were mixed up, but it didn't take away from the story, so I didn't particularly give a crap about that. I really enjoyed it. I always will. I've told her that a million times. All Foster's family, I believe, has read the book. I should have made money selling the book. I enjoyed it that much. So it was a fantastic book, and I loved it. Have you actually read her book, Jenny?
I have not, because I've been trying between like all of the stuff that comes on YouTube, and then I stopped my Audible a while back.
Oh, okay.
So, and I stopped it before I got to hers, and then you go look at, a lot of times you can't. That's the only way you can get it. And I have a long commute, so I don't have time to read at home where I can plug it into my car and just go. So I might have to basically pay for a subscription for like a month or two and just get her book and then a couple others and listen to them and then cancel it again. No offense, Audible, but I can
gift it, because I always have like 6 or 7 credits on Audible. Maybe I'll see if I can gift one. That'd be awesome. I'll gift you hers. Okay. If I can.
I mean, it's not. I'm not worried about it's not the money. It's more that, like, when I start a subscription, I always forget that I have it, and then I know
it's not about the money. But if I can gift it, since I've got seven credits sitting there, I'll do it. I actually got a message yesterday about all the credits I have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's good. I do want to read it or listen to it.
Amber Vanass comment: I hate good roads, good weather crap. My mom always says it different now. Amen.
That's
Amber.
part of it. It's different now.
Amen.
It's different now.
Yeah. Amber Vanessa again, comment. Unfortunately, our parents don't understand why we are so pissed off. Again, very true. Very, very true. They don't understand that at all.
We're just being banky.
Banky and nattering.
Yes.
Which is funny because that's essentially what they do about psychiatry. So, hey. Okay. Let's go. Comment. I'm sure he doesn't think you're bad people. They think you are wrong or confused. They say what the church tells them to say. You know what? Thank you for the comment. Let's go. I want to disagree with you. I do think they think we're bad people because of the church, not just wrong or confused. Because if we were just wrong or confused, they would stay in touch with us and try to unconfuse us. When they cut off ties, that's when they truly believe you are a bad person and you cannot be corrected, in my opinion. What do you think, Jenny?
I would say, so in your parents' case, yes. In my mother's case, yes, I agree with you. In my dad's case, I'm going to lean a little bit towards let's go, because the way he sees it is a lot of like incorrect and misapplied technology with me, which probably is true. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm sure there's tons of it, given some of my experiences and how absolutely miserable they were.
And by incorrect and misapplied technology, she's talking about Scientology, period. Yes. Okay. Matt Elliott does know that I'm a giant baseball fan. So hopefully Mookie isn't out for that long. My fantasy team. Okay. So I have not watched a Dodger game yet today. I have been drinking and hanging out with my brother and his girlfriend. And so that sucks if Mookie's out. I hope he's not, but I'll have to go check that out. Katie Fulton. Hi, Sterling. Great chat. Great to see you. Good to see you too, Katie. I love being on with Jenny. It's so much fun. We talk a lot behind the scenes. Katie and Reese, right there. But I've actually known Katie. Katie. Reese and Jenny. Thank you. I've known Jenny forever. I've known Jenny for so long. We grew up together. And I was so happy to be put back in contact with her. And, hopefully we can do a live with Mike again soon, because that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we'll maybe even do a game night, which would be awesome. So thank you so much for the super chat, Katie. Hope you're well. Cece, who I believe was a former Sea Org member. Comment, Sterling, wonder what happens when Foster
Jeremy's mom.
Is it whose? Oh, Krushko.
Jeremy Krushko.
Oh, wow. Jeremy Krushko. That's right. Okay. Wonder what happens when Foster does conditions in exchange by dynamics. That's a very good question. Jenny, do you remember what exactly that is?
What did you say?
Do you remember what that is? Can you explain what that is? I wish I had Karen here to do that.
So I'm like, let me try to remember, because you had to do this every time you went on a new post. You have to work out what your condition is for each and every single dynamic, and what that dynamic exchanges with all of its other dynamics. So you sit there and go, you look at like your first, second, third, like first is yourself, second is your family, third is your group. You look at that and you go, okay, well, currently I'm in normal on this one, I'm in danger on this one, I'm in non-existence on this one. You work it all out, and then you have to actually do these conditions to get them all up to a normal condition. And then you look at how all of your dynamics exchange with the others. Now, if this sounds like it's going to tie your entire brain in a knot, it totally does, because you draw lines between them. And it's like ridiculous. Like, how does your first dynamic exchange with your second dynamic? Well, I give my wife this and that. And, and I take my kids to this and that, and we do this, and they give me, because it's also what they exchange with you. So then they go, well, and then they give me the respect as this and that, and they let me have my sleep time. I mean,
yeah, it's absurdity. It's horseshit. It's basically just full-time mind.
It literally like ties it in knots.
Yeah, it's absurd in such a way. But it would be a good question, Jenny. We got to do a show about the subject of the 2D and sex and Scientology, because
I even have a shirt for it too.
Do you? Yeah,
one.
We need to do that, because we need to talk about the absurdities that we dealt with growing up. One of which is if the second dynamic is sex and family, but sex is never a thing. I knew people that were 40-year-old virgins there, but they never make you do conditions on that particular aspect of the second dynamic. It's weird.
The children part.
Yeah.
Oh, they go, well, it doesn't apply in this case. Since when can you just decide part of the policy doesn't apply?
Right. You stop Sea Org members from having children, and now you're cutting across their second dynamic, which per Scientology would affect all the other dynamics, which would lessen their ability to take care of themselves, lessen their ability to take care of their spiritual nature, lessen their ability to handle their group dynamic. So what? And those are things that did cross our mind. Yeah.
And when you do conditions exchange by dynamic, you have to break the second dynamic up. You remember? You have to break it up into family, into sex and children.
Yep. So most of the time when we did the sex part, there was absolutely nothing to write about. And then
you're like, well, I thought you do naughty. I need to start like
in Scientology, in the Sea organization, at least, there is no sex education. I just want to be clear about that.
Oh God, no.
They don't tell you anything. Nothing. You go in blind. You have to find the right hole. So yeah, anyways. Okay. Witness, one of my favorite people. How you doing? Thank you so much. And yes, hashtag under the radar Scientologist. If you guys are watching this and you can relate to some bit of what we're talking about, because we're being honest, truthful, and sincere, then maybe you should watch some of the other channels too and understand what it might be like to leave the cult of Scientology and live your real life.
Yeah, like just take in the information. You don't have to make a decision immediately. You don't even have to make it. Just take it in and like process it.
Yes.
Look at what look how maybe that information compares to maybe what you see looking at it from a different set of eyes,
And we had some good experiences there. It couldn't be all bad. That's impossible. Right. It was a majority bad, and we could have had better, but we also have camaraderie, friendships, and things that will you know, last the true test of time. That'll never go away. And those things some of us tend to focus on. I do for sure. One of the questions coming up here is from Blow Drill, another person that, you know, made a stamp on my life at some point when I met him back at the ranch in 1992 or 93. But yeah, I agree with Jenny on that. Take a look at it. There's going to be something here that relates to you that you can understand that may start that path out for you, where you realize the world is an amazing place without Scientology, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding like what true friendship meant was like a different thing to me. Like I couldn't believe I had friends that would go like to the heavens and back for me for something so simple. I was like, really? And then like calling in to check up on me, texting me to see what's up after, you know, like, I mean, just, it was, and like that you can really count on them, even though like you're doing something different than them or whatever. Like in Scientology, you either all go this way or you split up and you're not friends anymore. It's conditional friendship. Where out here, it doesn't matter. Like if you're up or down or sideways, they're like, hey, we're still your friend, you know, like we're here for you.
Right. And unconditional friendship, which is a big difference.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
for sure.
a lot of our experience had to do with, you know, conditional friendship. But that being said, you could at least tell who really was your friend or not, because when you were in trouble, if they stayed talking to you, they were kind of your friends.
I talked to everyone. I got in trouble for that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure
really
you did.
bad.
You talked to people, didn't you? Probably even me when I was leaving. You even spoke
I
to
know,
me when I was
like,
leaving.
oh, it's so sad. But I could tell you were just like, I could tell you were so unhappy. Like Sterling, you even looked almost kind of gray. I was just like, oh, like the life is just gone. And I told Kirsten, I said, I don't think he's gonna handle Isaac. I think he's gonna go. And
you know what I remember about that conversation with you, Jenny, is that because I liked you, I was willing to have that conversation without chewing you up and spitting you out. I gave you every moment and answered the question without telling you what I really felt like. But I'm sure you could see it. I'm sure you could see it in my eyes, because I was done.
Did. And I wasn't asking for anyone. I just wanted to know, like, what was your perspective on things, you know? And I know there's stuff you couldn't talk about because you were at INT ultimately, and I was not. So you have that, you know, information can't, you know.
Yeah. Natural barrier.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Comment. Return of the Jedi is my fave, but it's the first movie I saw in theaters when I was 4.5 years old. Empire is outstanding. Also, I love them all, actually.
My brother's favorite was Return of the Jedi. Oh, look, Gary Jackson Moorhead's in here. Hi, I remember your mom. She was the receptionist at the daycare.
That's right. I do remember that too. Let me see. I didn't see Jackson.
We stole her cigarette once and smoked it while she was on the phone. When we were like 7.
I do remember his mom. I do remember. I'll always remember the lobby at the CEO. When you walked in, there was that giant desk, and the hallways went left and then straight and then to the right. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of bad memories of the CEO, but mostly because there was a giant playground and they actually built a track, and we used to go around on our tricycles and race around that thing. And that's where Carly got me my Michael Jackson cutoff gloves that one time too. She was like the Morgan Freeman in Shawshank. She could get us anything in jail. It was kind of strange.
It was such a wonder because she used to wear such ratty clothes, and it's true she would come up with some of the
I don't know how she got this stuff. I think she even got me the Michael Jackson jacket once too, with the zippers. Anyways, He was like, if you need it, she got it.
Wearing shoes.
Yeah. Blow Drill sending love to you, Sterling. I hope Foster wakes up and you're able to reconcile. Thank you so much, Blow Drill. Happy Father's Day, by the way. You know Blow Drill. Have you spoken to Blow Drill yet, Jenny?
We just connected. I saw him in my chat, so I said, email me, and he did. So we just got our number, so we're gonna get connected up.
Absolutely wonderful person.
I'm excited.
Wonderful person.
I'm excited.
Dogs unite against Scientology. That's a great concept. Hi, Jenny and Sterling. Great to catch up. Don't get to see Sterling much these days. No, you don't. I've been busy, but for a few ladies, and Reese's included, I will make an appearance every once in a while. And I also hope to get back on, of course, with Mike Brown, of course, with Dylan Gill. I'll do interviews with. But I've been very busy coaching Little League, my own sports. different things like that, and maybe even possibly starting another channel on a different subject for the fun of it. So whenever I can pop on here specifically to talk about subjects that I feel deeply about or that I can maybe help with, I'll do that. Hence talking to Jenny about the subject of parents and disconnection in Scientology. There we go.
Yeah, and a game night. Let's not forget, you promised that already.
Yeah, we're doing a game night for sure. I love game night. Love the Los Angeles Dodgers. Awesome, Michael Malloy. They won to. Is he holding a lightsaber with a Dodgers cap on? I think he is.
He's your spirit animal.
He's my spirit animal. And I'm so glad they won today. I'm gonna have to check that out. House of Dragons. Do you watch House of Dragons, Jenny?
No, I'm not even sure if I've heard of it. Or if I heard of it, went in and right back out.
You watch Game of Thrones, right?
No, I'm not real into that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Is it like, it's like fantasy kind of stuff, right? Dragons and stuff like that?
Yeah, cool
stuff.
stuff.
I don't watch. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of it, but I think maybe if I did, I probably would get into it. I watch like a lot of cult stuff.
Sometimes you need to escape. I'm a bit of a fantasy guy anyway, just for the fun of it, to a certain degree, not overboard. Good show.
I'm a big comedy fan. Like anything that's comedy. Oh yeah, I'll watch everything from dark to slapstick.
Yeah, I sent you something recently. I forget what it was about a comedy, but I'll have to look it up. Let's go. Is Gold still in the same location? Yes, is the answer. If so, are they ever allowed to leave the property?
But Scientology Media Productions is the largest part of it, and it's been broken out now.
Yes. So I believe the last person that left Golden Era Productions that's been able to speak out was Mitch Brisker. And so he has a lot of information. And apparently, as Jenny says, Scientology Media Productions handles the events, TV, and all that stuff. Golden Era Productions now only handles the films, which is a drastic difference from when we were there. And I believe your brother QC is now down in LA because he works for Scientology Media Productions rather than Golden Era Productions. Is that right?
Yeah. So he went there at its very start when
with Henning Bendorf.
When it was even like, I think they were using some of the OSA offices at first, and then before they got the whatever studio thingy, whatever. But now the shoot crews, I think, are all like working there, and all the website people are working there, and it's like the whole thingy-majingy.
Yeah, I can't say that they ever. Of course, people leave the property. By the way, that's a normal occurrence. They're going to go out and do things. It's not a regular occurrence because they have places to sleep on property now. When I was there, we did not sleep on the property, so we went home to this town of Hemet every night. But yeah, I don't know how the security is there right now. It's probably a little tighter, but I'm assuming that because it could also be that they're like, hey, if you want to get out of here, just fricking leave and we're done with you. So I don't know how they address it nowadays. I've heard stuff about the tunnels recently, and I want to clarify. There's tunnels at Golden Era Productions under the highway for two reasons. One, because they used to make the staff cross the highway, and Jackson can confirm this. They used to make the staff cross the highway, which was very, very dangerous because the cars went flying through there. It also gave access for people to get out the gate and go across. But fact of the matter was, Golden Era Productions was hard to escape for one reason, in that if you did get out the gate, you had at least 10 to 15 miles to get to civilization. So it's not like once you got out the gate, you were free to go. They would hop in a Rover car or a motorcycle and chase you down like they did Mark Headley very quickly. So it wasn't like it was a great escape route to go out the gate. You were better off leaving when you were down in LA on a mission or on a shoot somewhere. But they do have tunnels there that were permitted, and those were under the highway just so that people could walk under the highway, but completely visible, by the way. When you were on the highway, you could see that there was a tunnel there. It wasn't a hidden tunnel or anything like that. Now that everyone's talking about tunnels recently, I want to make that clarification. The staff were actually happy to have the tunnel there because you no longer had to cross the highway, which was a pain in the ass. And during the summer, when we were wearing our polyester uniforms, it was a much shorter route to go under the tunnel to the next buildings rather than going all the way up to the highway entrance and across you used to call it Broadway, I believe. Broadway was the main street going up there. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to know how hard it was to escape, if you didn't have like a vehicle or like you weren't going to LA, watch my interview with Jorge that I did. It's either the one I did with he and Mike or the one he and I did together. And he explains how far he literally had to run on feet to get somewhere. I mean, it was
it's absurd.
crazy.
Like, for instance, my brother Justin, he took off from Golden Era Productions in early 1999 or maybe 2000. I can't remember the exact year. It's one of those two. He didn't do it. He wasn't stupid. He didn't do it from Golden Era Productions. He would have never gotten away. He waited until he was at birthing. Then he walked, I believe, to Walmart or a bus station and took a bus down to LA or hitchhiked, one or the other. You didn't, blowing from Golden Era Productions, unless you're like Mark Headley, who had a motorcycle at the time, or Ron Miscavige Sr., who happened to have a car, which was about 2.5% of the people at the base had a car. You didn't try to escape from Golden Era Productions. That was you. That's trying to escape from Alcatraz without the sharks. Really was.
The biggest thing that holds you in there is yourself. Like, even when you're being tortured, like quite literally, you will keep yourself in there. It's the most insane thing that I still to this day have a hard time explaining that.
Especially when you grew up in it and your like, imagine your parents are still in it too. You're like, why would I leave this? What you don't know is that when you leave, your parents are going to disown you anyways, which kind of sucks. But there we go. Blow drill, unless it's Jenny Linson. And this is in reference to me being forgiving about our parents and stuff. And that's true. And thank God this girl did not have children.
Oh my goodness.
She was a nightmare. But yes, that's one person, her and Dave Miscavige, Marty Rathbun, Mike Sutter, Warren McShane. I might have a bigger list than I think I should, but those are people that I would not forgive in any ways. And that's because their personal treatment of me, towards me while I was there.
I think we all have our people, but Jenny's a mutually agreed on scenario.
You cannot get a disagreement on her. She was particularly nasty as a human being. Amber Vanass comments, Sterling, if you come to Chicago, me and my husband will take you out for dinner. I know you're seeing Family Chicago. I might take you up on that. I have a discussion with my cousin later today. We're going to talk about the family reunion that's happening there, because we're going to talk about the family reunion. I want to make it. I really do.
You should.
So I also love Chicago. I'm also going to try.
And Amber is great.
I know.
She's full of stories.
Fantastic. And I also I want to catch a White Sox game while I'm there. I've never been to Comiskey Park, or it's not Comiskey anymore. It's Cellular One or whatever, but Comiskey Park for all you old school people. But I've been to Wrigley, so I can't wait to do that as well. I always try to kill two birds with one stone when I go somewhere. Do multiple things, so hopefully I can do that. Thank you so much, Amber. Black A. Reed, happy birthday, by the way. Scream it louder for the people in the back.
Birthday.
I believe this is when I was going on a rant about something. I believe my volume was sufficiently high enough for that, so I appreciate you saying that. Blow drill. There are two foundations set up to soften the landing if and when you make that choice. I agree 100%. There's no, I don't understand why there's any division on that at all. There are two wonderful foundations staffed by wonderful people that no matter what will make an effort to help you when you get out. That is something
I hope more open. I hope more open. Because like I've helped other people on the side.
Yeah, that makes such a big difference, guys, because a lot of people I know, and maybe some you know, Jenny, they turned to Scientology because Scientology knew they would get out and get stuck without a job. And then Scientology would go, we'll help you get a job, but then keep them on a leash. So having the ability to immediately separate yourself from Scientology makes a big difference for a lot of people. A big difference. Yeah,
because when you leave there, more times than not, you cannot stand on your own 2 feet. Like you have nothing. All the way from not even barely speaking the same language, no life experience that relates or barely relates. It's really a rough run. My whole like getting my grounding was not an easy thing to do. And there were no foundations. And my dad tried to help me, but he comes from such a different mindset. And I'm out there in this world. And like, I'm literally having conversations where people are telling me that I'm using words that don't make sense, and I'm like, ooh, okay. Yikes.
Or how about the first time? How about the first time you yelled? You raised your voice to someone when you were intense about something at work, and that person thought that you basically stabbed them and beat them to death. And you're like, I wasn't even angry yet.
And it's over some petty little stupid thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I did that one time and I felt like the most horrible human being to ever walk this planet. I was like, I think I feel worse than you do right now. I'm so sorry. Like
you don't realize that your intensity at 0 is a 5 for everyone else. You're like,
God, it's like an 8. Yeah.
No, you were. I was like, oh, okay. Yes. So know that feeling. All right, here we go. A little personal.
Oh, someone's asking where Jorge's story is. Sorry, it's on my channel at Cults and Atheists, like just written out. And you'll find it there. And it's in 2 parts. So I did the first one with Mike and Jorge, and then the second one with just Jorge, where he dove a bit more into his experience, what happened when he went to the RPF. But the beginning one was a lot about how he got out, like how he got into Scientology to getting out and stuff. They're excellent. And, you know, he was really nervous and he gave lots of information. They're definitely worth listening to, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree. By the way, I've known Jorge and his brother and his mom forever. And when I watched your interview with him, there were so many things I did not know at all. I was shocked to hear. Very much so.
Yeah.
Very
I was surprised at some of it too. Like, I didn't realize that was why he came back to the Cadet Arc. I was like, oh, shoot, he's back. Dang it.
And some people may have different takes on Jorge, but I have to say, I never had a run-in with Jorge in my entire life. I liked him the entire time I was there, even when he was in security. And that's saying something, because it was hard to like security guards, except for Jackson.
Yeah, no, see, like, it's funny because, like, Jorge, when we were in the Cadet Arc, he was such a tyrant to me. I hated him, but, you know, it was what it was. But then, and I loved his mom, though. And Felipe was always real mellow. Yeah. But then later on, when he was at Up Lions Gold or whatever, and he actually ended up marrying Nicole, who was working for me. And I got to know him in a different way and see this different sort of person. And he was so likable and he's so nice. He's actually just like, he is a very sincerely and genuinely nice person. He actually really spoke to his mindset back then. And he even admits the way he was. And, but he's so aware of like himself nowadays. And like he's made such a great transition. He's doing really good, like as far as like work, and he's got a kid and all that stuff. So.
And you know that him and Justin hung out a lot when they both left.
I didn't know that. No,
yeah, I don't know if you ever mentioned it. Him and Justin used to hang out all the time. Actually, I think they even used to work together somewhere, if I got that correct. But no, they were close friends. No, he's a good guy. I didn't get along with his mom tremendously, but also didn't.
I thought she was super nice.
Yeah, she was one of the adults at the ranch. But me telling you I didn't get along with an adult that was in a supervisory capacity wasn't a surprise at all. It was a very rare person I got along with that was in charge of me when I was younger. MJ
like
Reinhardt.
Sterling in authority.
Question, Jenny, were you ever married in Scientology? You don't need to answer if you don't want to.
Yeah. So when I got married in the Sea Org, I'm not going to lie, I'm not sure it was legal, but it was strange. And it was very, like, when we ended up getting divorced, it like took 2 seconds. So I don't really know if it was just ended up being by common law, because in California, after you've lived together for 5 years, common law means you are married. We did see this woman who did something. I just don't know how legit it was. I got referred to her by somebody. So I don't have any idea if it was.
And Jenny was actually married to one of my closest friends, which was growing up was John Reese. And so John Reese's mother and father worked with my stepmom, Barbara, in AOLA. So, Jono and I, being the rich kids, apparently went to Mace Kingsley. And the only reason Jenny didn't go to Mace Kingsley was because her parents were paying for the pool she had at her apartment, so couldn't afford both.
No, I wasn't going to go join the people who used to make fun of me when I was at the ATA school. I don't think so. Mace Kingsley and Delphi people were so mean.
They were mean to us as Sierra kids. Oh my God.
They were so terrible.
They were the worst.
They were awful.
I used to fight with them. Okay, Blake Reed, take that, Justin. Absolutely. I love going after Justin on here. Thank you, Blake Reed. Gary Jackson Moorhead. By the way, I only call him Jackson. Hey, Gagoots. Hi. Oh, I thought he was talking to you. Dare he call you Gagoots, but he's talking to me. Hey, Jackson, how you doing? And yes, it was called Broadway. So the main thoroughfare, which was lined with palm trees, that bisected the base, or however you call it, was called Broadway. yeah, and so we used to have to cross the street at the security booth and go up Broadway, which is like you're coming out. It's 115 degrees. You're wearing all polyester. You have to cross the street there, walk in the sun up like a 16-degree angle slope, 16-degree slope of a street. It was stupid. It was stupid. And I remember when if you ate late, you had to run up in your uniform. Oh, okay. I don't miss those days. Good. Whatsoever.
Those polyester uniforms were so miserable, and they button up to your neck, and you have to wear like these ties.
Yes,
and it's like they're like wearing plastic bags between those and your pants.
Did you ever wear the whites? The
oh my god, whites? Yeah. Did you not hear my white story when I was telling with Aaron and the Navy came through? Oh, it was so embarrassing. I was like 17 at the time, and Bridge, we wore regular business clothes because we weren't in church at the time, but on the weekends, we would study over at FCB. It was FCB at the time, ILO. Right. And but when we did that, we would wear uniform. And so during summertime, we wore the working whites. And I was standing out front of the building, and the Navy was coming through, and one guy looks at me and he goes, "What branch are you with?" I don't know what he's talking about. I'm 17 years old. I'm like, here? Like, and then I'm sitting there thinking, why are we wearing the same thing? And who are these people? And the guy kind of like throws his head back. He knew he was just giving me shit. And he starts laughing, and his buddies kind of laugh, and they all walk off as a group of maybe 10 or some of them. And I remember at the end just realizing I obviously didn't know what they're talking about. And I'm wearing something that I shouldn't be wearing. I was so humiliated. I was so embarrassed. And so even though we were supposed to wear uniforms on the weekend, and it's summertime, as hot as all get up, I would still wear a sweater over it just to not look like I was wearing it. It was so embarrassing. You take the navy blue sweater over it, and you instantly broke up whatever, because you could wear the sweater. You could wear the sweater with any uniform and get away with it. No, I remember being a kid in CMO Pack, and I was somewhere on Hollywood Boulevard once. I forget why I was on Hollywood Boulevard. I was delivering something or running a message somewhere. And I remember running down the street with a friend who was about the same size as me. And there was this dude on the corner of the street who was high as hell. And he was like, "Yo, Smurfs," because we were wearing the all blue, the blue tops. And he said, "Yo, Smurfs." I started laughing so hard. He called us Smurfs because the shirt was the exact same color as the Smurfs. But anyways, yeah, no. And I used to think the whites made us look like pilots. And I was a big Top Gun fan when I was younger. But I was always a swamper, so it didn't really look that cool. I didn't have the bars. Okay. George's story had me absolutely bawling. I agree, Kelly. That was really touching. Yeah, I just can't believe how many times he had such I almost want to say nearly died. You know what I mean? This kid is a survivor in every way. Every way. And by the way, someone put in the chat the link to that interview. So guys, please go check that out if you get a chance. Thank you so much, Jenny and Sewing. You're so welcome, Black. You're welcome. I think we're close to the end. Guys, if you don't already know, thank you, Witness, for putting that in there. Witness is one of my favorite people. We actually text on a regular basis. She's a sweetheart. She sends me a good morning or a have a wonderful day almost every day. Sometimes I'm bad at responding, but I think I'm about at 97% on that. So, and she's a wonderful person and a sweetheart. So there's Jenny's channel. If you guys aren't already following, please go and follow. She makes no money on that channel. Yeah, I got demonetized before everyone else was getting demonetized. Ooh, look at me. And for a different reason. We are simulcasting this stream to both channels because, hey, why not? We don't care. Ahead, YouTube. I challenge you. Amber Vaness, Jorge seems like a good guy. I think Jorge is a good guy. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. 100%. Yep. I think that's it. Wow. That was a fun conversation as usual. It seemed like it was 30 minutes. It's an hour and 43 minutes. Oh, here. Sorry, I got to pop this one up. Funny you asked this, Bota29. Ever find a cool copy of 1984? No, I'm still on the lookout for another copy of 1984. I checked Barnes & Noble yesterday. I had all those copies already. You can't find... Oh, did you go on eBay? No, I look for unique covers that are like that's what I'm saying. You go there and people are always trying to sell old shit. I'll check on eBay then. I want some old shit. Like the original of 1984 would be awesome. I was looking for Him Vision. I got a really old version of it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Ooh. Do you have the? Can you text me? Send me a picture of the cover if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's the green one.
Oh, good. Thanks for
And then,
narrowing
like,
it down
80s
to
or
the
something.
probably 400 versions that have been printed. This is one of my favorite ones. Not this one.
And I'll tell you something, y'all, about 1984, because Elrich is always talking about the 1984 world coming. The Sea Org is the most 1984-esque place you've ever been in. There are cameras everywhere, that you are controlled with an inch of your life. You cannot think bad thoughts against it or about it or anything, and et cetera, et cetera.
That's one of my favorite covers. No, I've done that.
Oh.
I've done that series with the lovely Miriam. We spoke about that. Another good book, by the way.
How did I miss that? Ooh, what?
And Going Clear. No, I've spoken with Miriam about that. No, it is okay. So you know who turned me on to 1984?
Kiara, you said.
Yep, Kiara Leserve. One of the most beautiful people in this world. Her and her sister are fantastic.
She and her sister were, but okay, now there's the anomaly, right? Because both of them were super nice people, like really nice people.
Oh yeah,
all the way through.
Yeah, and you know what? And I gotta say, I'll have to balance that later. I have to say, their dad was actually kind of a nice person too.
I liked him the few times I met him.
People up there, he was actually seemed like a genuinely nice person. And by the way, Kiara had a I'll have to tell that story, so I'll have to ask her if it's okay for me to tell you, but she had a meeting with Jenny Linson in like 2000, maybe 2010. And I remember her coming down and saying to me, God, I couldn't stand that girl.
Yeah, I bet that did not go well.
No, it did not. And the girl is she's just a nightmare. Jenny Linson, not Kiara. But no, Kiara is a fantastic person.
Kiara's mom. So when her mom was on the RPF, I used to talk to her all the time.
I saw her mom in Italy 3 times.
I haven't seen her since she left.
With all of them when I was working over in Saudi. They're unbelievable person. Yeah, Don McKay, I agree. Guillaume was an exception. I have a feeling Guillaume in any group would have succeeded. I'm sure he did things he regrets, but I also think he was basically a really good guy.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate too that he chose Scientology over his kids. I can't with that.
He did, but in a weird way, he also sent them away from Scientology, which is a very unique story on them particularly that we should cover sometime, because even though it's only conjecture and I couldn't tell you for sure, I believe he did it intentionally.
Okay, I just remember when they would go visit.
Yeah.
They would go to Italy and visit the grandma. And I remember one of the times she came back and she said that she wanted to go live there and that's what she was going to try and do.
Yep.
And I remember that. And so, because I remember like all the last times that we hung out together before, they actually left. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I can't believe she's actually like going away. And it was just an interesting thought that she was going to go live with her grandmother. Yeah. And so.
Who's also an amazing person. Her story is so unique. Her and Laura's story is so unique that I should probably ask him sometime if I can talk about it. I would ask him before I did talk about it and make sure I had all my facts.
I would.
But when I was in Saudi, I spent a lot of time with them. I visited them at least 3 to 4 times, spent New Year's with them in Milan. They are truly unbelievable people. Kiara has 2 children now. They're lovely. Laura is always just an amazing person. So yeah, they're fascinating stories, but I do believe he sent them away because he didn't want them to have that life. And he did give up his children, which in one way is horrible, but in another way, he took them out of Scientology. So it's an interesting story.
Yeah, there's that. That's true.
There's that. But, again, he should have stayed with him, of course. Yes. Jersey Jan comments. Julian, I think you and Miriam only got halfway through. Yeah, I don't even think halfway. We weren't doing chapter by chapter. We just began to talk about it. Maybe, Jen.
You should pull the L. Ron Hubbard quotes about it.
Yeah, maybe you, Miriam, and I do a live on it at some point where we finish talking about it. The correlations are stunning.
Yeah, and it'd be
like so.
It would be funny to look at that, right? Like exactly like you say, the correlations obviously are ridiculous, But then to also look at what L. Ron Hubbard kept saying about 1984, like I had a bunch of it in our recruitment packs. So
Did you really? I would have to, because I can't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to dig around and see what I can find as far as the quotes and stuff. Let me write this down because, you know, I'm getting old and I forget things. It's true. I'm not even joking.
Oh, trust me, I'm there with you. I'm there with you.
That makes me feel better. Okay, 1984.
Not as bad
okay,
as
so
you,
I'm
there with you. Yeah.
I'll look for stuff on that, and then you can hear what because I mean he's anyways, enough about him.
God, I would love to cover what he talks about, because anything that L. Ron Hubbard mentions about 1984 in relation to Scientology, he's a complete hypocrite.
Yeah, like he's talking about like the like Scientology is going to fix it. I'm like, dude, we're living it though. Yeah. Like you aren't going to fix shit if like you want us all to live like it.
Character, it completely my dad. Like when I was reading that book, all I could picture was my dad in that position. The beat, because look, Dave hated my father. He hated me
because he's smarter than your dad. More. He's smarter than Dave. I mean,
yeah, that's why. Yeah. Well, Don McKay in here also mentioned that Guillaume was exceptionally decent and highly common person. That's why DM hated him. Guys, it is not conjecture or theory. Dave Miscavige hated anyone that was smarter than him. So there was a very large list of people he hated. Smarter and taller. Those are the two things he hated.
That's like almost everybody.
I know, right? And that makes sense.
It's surprise.
Jenny Linson, she was shorter than him.
He didn't like anybody.
No, he did hate a lot of people because they were smarter than him or more competent, or, you know, look, at one point they did a survey. The IMPR Management Public Relations Office did a survey of who were the most, this was like in 1994, 95, did a survey of the most popular speakers at Scientology events. Dave Miscavige, I believe, and I may have my facts wrong, but I think I can't remember who told me this. It was either Ronnie Miscavige Jr. or my mom. I can't remember who. Way back when. Dave came up as like number 4 as the fourth most popular speaker. Heber Jentz was number 1. I believe Guillaume was number 2. I think Ronnie
Ray Midoff was on that list.
What?
Ray Midoff was on that list.
Yeah. Ray Midoff. Oh, it might have been Ray Midoff was 3rd. Dave was 4th. Only person that went underneath Dave was Mark Yeager, and that makes sense because he's also a dick. Some people may have different experiences with I did not like Mark Yeager. He was never nice to me. Ray Midoff, super nice. Guillaume, super nice. Heber Jentz, I only met once or twice. But yeah.
I used to live across the hall from him.
From Heber?
Yeah. He was crazy. Super nice. So back when Alexander was
too, man, he was so nice. It was ridiculous. Like what?
He was ridiculously nice. Like, yeah, he was married to Yvonne then. And so, and they had Alex, and he wasn't but maybe 3 or 4 years old. And so we were across from each other at the fountain. And, for like a long time before they moved over to the AB, but, they split up and then he moved over to the AB. But yeah, he was just like, anytime you see him, he would give you the time of day. And it's like, hey, how are you? You know, what you up to? Come on in, you know, like that kind of, he was very much like that. And so
interesting. Yeah. He always seemed very, I mean, again, guys, it's a cult, but there were people that were genuinely nice. And then there was people that took advantage of the control mechanisms of that cult to be abusive as possible. You know, and there were some people that didn't have the best demeanor, but outside you can tell they've changed. They're a little bit better people. It's all around, you know, some people didn't change at all. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, yeah, we could talk about people we knew back then too.
Yeah, because I remember when he married Jane, you know, Witta, and then you know, she had her daughter Elise, and then they had Alex, but he was like that loving person, just took her in, and she was, you know, like there was no, like she was part of the family, and like, you know, it's just like he was that very inclusive, very like he exerted lots of love. And I would even go see, because Jane and my mother were good friends. So my mom would live at the AB. So sometimes we'd have to go stay with her. Right, and then we would go over to the Jentz's room. So like, you know, yeah. Good people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jenny.
Oh, right.
I think we're done. We're at 2 hours. Again, I mean, it flies by because talking to you is always fun, but let's do something again in the very, very near future.
Let's.
Otherwise, I'm going to hit you with the outro. Stick around for a second and we'll talk. And here comes my outro.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Happy Father's Day. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And we'll see you guys soon.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?